Hollow Knight is an indie darling, and on my top 10 games of all time. This game is so aware and has so much lore that even after 6 years of being on the market, we still haven't solved all the mysteries in it. I only have around 75 hours in Hollow Knight, but I adore it. This game feels alive and the world feels like a past civilization. Honestly, this game stands out to me. Ari Gibson's art is fantastic and the gameplay is almost better. The jump height and the nailed control is just perfect. We can talk for hours about how gorgeous the world is, but I'm just going to jump right into it. The map system is like the most Metroidvanias. You go around having no map at all, you find an NPC or a shopkeeper, and then you buy the map. But in Hollow Knight, they have done it so perfectly. Cornifer, the bug who sells maps, is hidden around in every area. And you have to go around until you find some small pages on the ground. And then you have to follow the pages until you hear a low, whisper quiet song. And when you follow the song, you find them. It sounds complicated, but it's honestly just the best way to do it. When I speak about the map, I often go to areas, because the areas are fantastic. The starter area with Dirtmouth and the Forgotten Crossroads, that later becomes the Infected Crossroads, is just amazing. It gives you a sense of wonder, trying to find the next way to get to the next boss or the next area. It's just the best way to make a hub or a starter area for the player. Many times, the starter area becomes way too easy after a while. This doesn't happen in Hollow Knight, because right when you are starting to think that the basic enemies are way too easy, they just upgrade them. They make them explode. They make them double the speed. It's insane. Let's talk about the combat system, because the combat system is also amazing. I don't think I have anything bad to say about Hollow Knight in general, but the combat system is the best part. You can fight big, beautiful, designed boss fights, or you can fight small enemies. But the nail. Let's start with the nail. It's the basic sword that you can use to bounce on enemies or just hit them. And you can upgrade them. And it's just a good type of starter weapon. Then you get your first spell. And you almost forget to use it the first time you play this game, because it seems just like a normal range attack. The problem is that that range attack does 3 times as much damage as the nail. First spell you get is called the Vengeful Spirit. You can later upgrade it to the Shade Soul. The second spell the most players get, Desolate Dive, which later gets upgraded to Descending Dark. The last one is Howling Wraiths. I got this very late into the game. And the upgrade is called Abyss Shriek. These are all beautiful ways to make spells, but the thing that makes spells work is Soul. Soul is first used only to heal, and then you get to use it to cast spells. Some charms also work with Soul, and I will now talk about charms. Charms is a beautiful way to make abilities more common and less common at the same time. It's just a perfect way to make every playthrough a little bit different. When I talk about charms, I usually talk about the easy ones, like Grub Song. Grub Song makes it so that when you take damage, you also get a little bit of soul. But there's also a lot more complicated charms, like Fluke Murm. Fluke Murm is a charm that makes it so instead of your Vengeful Spirit or Shade Soul, you shoot out small flukes. Flukes are basically just worms. You shoot out small worms, and these worms individually take a little bit of damage on the boss or the enemy you shoot at. But you shoot at so many of them, so it makes it so you have a shotgun-like ability. These are just some of the charms that makes the game so interesting. Enemies in Hollow Knight are perfect. I just love them. There's so many different types of enemies. There's battle enemies, and there's explosive enemies, and there's bosses, and there's aspids. I hate aspids, especially primal. Everyone does. But when you talk about enemies, you mostly talk about bosses. The different types of bosses in this game, oh my god. My personal favorite, well, my personal favorite has to be Paint Master Shio. I know so many of you agrees with me. Some might say you need someone that's a little bit harder. But the way he coordinates his attacks with the next one and everything about him is just perfect. Did you know that if you look at Paint Master Shio's pencil, you might just see it change color for each attack? That's just some of the ways that makes him just perfect. It's a perfect boss. We can also talk about the end bosses like Hollow Knight and Radiance. Not to talk about Absolute Radiance because that shit is just shit. But it's so cool that we are able to play against and fight against so many different enemies and bosses in this game. There's one other boss I want to mention. And that boss is just perfect. It's also one of those bosses that I go back to just to fight when I don't have anything to do. Yeah, and that boss is absolutely no doubt about it one of the best. That boss is the Sisters of Battle. The Sisters of Battle is a perfect version of they're already pretty good Mantis Lords. When you take Mantis Lords, you fight them, and you think, well, why couldn't all of three of them attack at the same time? And then you go fight the Sisters of Battle, and you just think, well, they've done it. All of them attacked at the same time. It's just awesome. When everything comes around, Hollow Knight is an amazing game, and Team Cherry did an amazing work with it. But that's all the time we have for today. So I want to thank you for watching, and see you next time. Goodbye.